National Service here in the new homeland, and they include East German-style tattletale squads of every type, which are just basically a super tips program. It's similar to programs they've had in Russia since Stalin's era and continuing to this day, where they take junior high and high school students and train them in warrant service, gun confiscation, tax police, fugitive apprehension, you name it. Literal Hitler-Jugend brown shirts.
Taking 11-year-old children and teaching them the finer points of collecting taxes, and teaching them to do this. These are their role models, Russia's rough and ready tax police. They knock on the door, you know it's time to pay your taxes. They wear black masks and are famous for beating up tax cheats in the Russian mafia. Their motto, we have guns and we know how to use them.
The Patriot Act 2 bill itself is stamped confidential, not for distribution. Upon reading the analysis of the bill, I was stunned by the systematically crafted tyranny contained in the legislation. The Justice Department Office of Legislative Affairs admits that they have indeed covertly transmitted a copy of legislation to Speaker of the House, Dennis Hastert, and of course we already told you the Democrats have already introduced the bill. And there's dozens of sections in it, actually hundreds of sections in it, but Section 501 allows them to strip Americans of their citizenship and designate them for enemy combatants under Section 802 of the first Patriot Act that reads, any action that endangers human life that is a violation of any federal or state law. Now understand, you think this is just for, Habib Ahmed, the terrorist suspect over in Jordan, so you don't think it'll affect you. It says over and over again to fight international terrorism, domestic terrorism, and crime. The definition of terrorism, again, any action that endangers human life that violates any federal or state law. That's the first Patriot Act. They now say in Patriot Act 2 that they'll strip you of citizenship, secretly arrest you, and yes, even secretly execute you in one of the subsections. I mean, Hitler didn't even have the nerve to put stuff like that down on paper. He just did it. You're thinking, hey, Patriot Act 2 hasn't passed. Well, as soon as they engineer a terrorist attack, it will. And they've even said that if there's another terrorist attack, they'll pass it.
The war on terrorism was not just 9/11. That was just one of the battles. When you go to the grocery store and when you go to the football arena or other places, you have to think about these things differently.
So look what they've set up here. Every time there's an attack, they take more liberties while they leave the border wide open. And just a few more attacks, we'll be more enslaved than somebody in Soviet Russia. And it also has a subsection where if you know that your neighbor was grabbed by the police and you tell anyone, you can be designated as a terrorist and then be grabbed. I mean, this is something out of Alexander Solzhenitsyn's Gulag Archipelago, but worse, and right here in America. Section 501, the enemy combatant designation. And they're already grabbing citizens under this, and federal courts are saying that they can do this because there is no constitutional rights during the war on terror.
It is my responsibility to provide a legal framework and context in which detentions are understood and sustained.
What a perfect war. Some shadowy enemy you can never catch, and of course it's the government, carrying out these attacks, and the war just goes on and on and on. Section 201 of the Second Patriot Act makes it a criminal act for any member of the government or citizen to release any information concerning the incarceration or whereabouts of detainees. It also states that law enforcement does not even have to tell the press who they have arrested, and they never have to release their names. That's what we always heard about Guatemala or communist China or Cuba. They just, Felipe, they came and got him and he's gone, and you don't talk about it. Section 311 gives immunity to law enforcement engaging in spying operations against the American people.
We're going beyond governments. We're going into the hearts and minds of individuals.
There's more sections who say that private corporations can spy on you and have no liability. They even state in some of the other sections that you won't have any rights under the Fourth Amendment, and that police don't even have to get secret warrants anymore, that they can just break in your home if they feel like it without a warrant, take whatever they want and never tell you they were there, or plant things there. My friends, you have got to read Patriot Act 2, and you've got to read our analysis of it at Infowars.com. Section by section, you can then go to the bill, the House and Senate version, look at it for yourself. We've been analyzing the House version here for you, section by section. It's just the end of America. There's no other way to describe it.
Invasion of privacy. How omniscient government supercomputers can work for you.
Losing something can be so frustrating. It's hard to remember where we put things. And psychics can be so expensive. But thanks to the new Department of Homeland Security, losing something will soon be a thing of the past. I'm the Constitution Hugger. Hey guys, where are my keys? Thanks. You guys are sweethearts.
Homeland Security is every patriot's duty. You can get into the act too.
But, Stephen, you're probably being recorded as saying, doesn't all this government spying on its citizens mean losing our basic freedoms? Of course not. It means gaining limits on those freedoms. Something Uncle Sam likes to call Freedom Plus.
And there's so many more benefits. In a fear-based economy, everybody's a spy. Total surveillance means total employment. Also, all additional benefits classified under the United States Patriot Act of 2001. For further information about these benefits, report to federal detention centers. Happy clown candy centers.
Of course, not everybody can handle that much freedom. For those who absolutely need their privacy, these convenient privacy boxes are just the ticket to get away from it all. I'm Stephen Colbert. I hope you've learned something tonight, but most of all, I hope you enjoy the police state.
Attorney General John Ashcroft, shortly after the passage of the first Patriot Act in the aftermath of September 11th in late 2001, told a Senate panel in Congress that the Patriot Act didn't take anyone's liberties, and that people that talked about phantoms of lost liberties were aiding the terrorist, and that they would lose their liberties, that they were adding to the fog of war. Talk about double speak. He's saying we're not taking your liberties, but if you say we're taking your liberties, you aid the enemy, will take your liberties. But he one-upped himself when it comes to out-and-out, bald-faced lies. In 2003, while testifying before the House and Senate on two separate occasions, Mr. Ashcroft, upon being questioned about Patriot Act 2 that dwarfs Patriot Act 1 and its police state provisions, they said, tell us about Patriot Act 2, which everybody has a copy of and has been introduced in the Senate. And Mr. Ashcroft said there is no Patriot Act 2. Well, I guess in lawyers speak, he was telling the truth. The actual title of what is now known as Patriot Act 2 is the Domestic Security Enhancement Act of 2003. So let's go to some clips of Ashcroft back in 2001 saying they're not taking your liberty, and then lying again in 2003 saying there is no Patriot Act 2.
Under Director Bob Mueller, the FBI is undergoing an historic reorganization to put the prevention of terrorism at the center of its law enforcement and national security effort. Outside Washington, we are forging new relationships of cooperation with state and local law enforcement. We've created 93 anti-terrorism task forces across the country in each U.S. Attorney's District to integrate the communications and activities of state, local, and federal law enforcement. In all of these ways and more, the Department of Justice has sought to prevent terrorism with reason, careful balance, and excruciating attention to detail. Some of our critics, I regret to say, have shown less affection for detail. Their bold declaration of so-called facts have quickly dissolved upon inspection into vague conjecture. Charges of kangaroo courts and shredding the Constitution give new meaning to the term fog of war. Since lives and liberties depend on clarity, not obfuscation, and upon reason, not hyperbole, let me take this opportunity to be clear. Each action taken by the Department of Justice, as well as the war crimes commissions considered by the President and the Department of Defense, is carefully drawn to target a narrow class of individuals, terrorists. Our legal powers are targeted at terrorists. Our investigation is focused on terrorists. Our prevention strategy targets the terrorist threat. The United States government has defined terrorists as those who perpetrate